Hey guys, and welcome back. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to pick the right driver for you. There's a lot of marketing out there, there's a lot of myths out there, and I'm going to go over some of the specs of a driver so that you know what would be good for you. And I'm just generally speaking, we're going to talk about flex, about loft, torque, all kinds of different things, shaft length, and we're going to see which one's better set up for your game. So there's no one driver that's going to be best for everyone. Every driver needs to be custom fit to your swing and your game so that you can get the most distance out of it, and it's going to help you to play your best. So one of the first things we'll talk about is shaft flex. This is one of the things that people have a lot of questions about. A lot of times people think, well, if I don't swing very hard, then I'm obviously going to need a really light shaft flex. Or if I swing really hard, then I'm going to need a very stiff shaft flex. So that's not always the case. A lot of things is how smooth your swing is and how you swing the golf club. So let me go ahead and give you a couple examples of how two different extremes of how people would swing a golf club. So one extreme would be, imagine like a David Toms, who tends to take the club back and move everything in through together and doesn't have a lot of whipping or lag and release, lag and snap of the club coming through contact. Doesn't have a lot of club head speed for the PGA Tour, would be one of the lower swing speeds on the PGA Tour, but he's very rhythmic and back and through. Well, he can get away with a much softer shaft. So maybe his swing speed's around 105, 108 miles an hour. Could be a little bit more than that, depending on which year you're looking at, but not really, really fast. He can use a softer shaft to be able to still get the club to work the same way. Whereas a player that is more aggressive through the hitting area, maybe let's take an LPGA player and let's say that they're really lagging that club and getting it to whip through there, not nearly as strong as he is, but they're getting about the same amount of club head speed. Well, their club shaft is going to take more force and be released a little bit harder. They're going to need a little bit of a stiffer shaft. So really comes down to how rhythmic your swing is. So if you're a Fred Couples, you have a very smooth swing, very rhythmic swing, you can go get away with a little softer shaft. Also, if you have a tendency to hit a ball that kind of dies out of the air, it doesn't get enough backspin on it, so it launches and then dies and kind of doesn't really float up in the air, well then you can get away with a little bit of a softer shaft. If you're the kind of player that tends to get a lot of backspin on the ball and the shaft is really kicking and spinning up, then you're going to need a much stiffer shaft and a much more tip stiff shaft to keep the spin off there. So as a good rule of thumb, yes, it is true, the slower you swing in general, the softer the shaft you're going to want, but is to get a little bit more complex on that, a little bit more advanced on that, if you have a more aggressive swing, if you tend to get more backspin on the ball, you're going to want a stiffer shaft. If you don't get enough spin on the ball, or you have a very smooth swing, you can get away with a softer shaft. Even two people that are swinging the same mile per hour there. Now, when we're talking about shafts, there's all different price ranges. You get from shafts that are $60 shafts all the way up to $1,000 shaft. Shafts do play a little bit of a difference. You know, you want to get the right flex, you want to get the overall characteristics of the shaft, but most shafts that you're buying in clubs, the manufacturers make these for about $5, somewhere around in there, $3 to $5. It depends on the company and the shaft that they're going with. Those are your stock ones that come in there. If you want to go with a super premium shaft, you know, they're getting those for $50 or $60, $75, somewhere in that price range. So you're paying a real premium for the shaft. You're not going to see a lot of difference in ball flight in different brands of the shaft. So if you're playing two shafts that have the same playing characteristics, the same weight, the same flex, the same stiffness in different parts of the shaft, it's not going to be a whole lot of difference in there. So don't go out and buy an expensive driver with an expensive shaft unless you're really getting fit to that. Let's talk about the weight of the shaft here for a second. So a lighter weight shaft in general, you're going to be able to swing harder and you're going to be able to get more distance and more club head speed the lighter the shaft is. The disadvantage of the lighter shaft is it gets a little bit more whippy and a little bit more kick to it. So if a player swings really hard, they're going to need a bit of a heavier shaft to stabilize that shaft and to get a consistent ball flight. Ideally, in my personal opinion, this is just my opinion, you're going to want to go with the lighter shaft that you can control and hit consistently, very, very consistently. There are some other factors that would make you want to go to a heavier shaft, but if you're got tons of power, tons of speed, and you just want the most consistency, the most accuracy, that's when you can start stepping up into heavier weight shafts like you see with the pros with 70 and 80 gram shafts. they can already swing 120 miles an hour. They want that 120 to go down the middle of the fairway, and that's where you see those heavier shafts. Length of the club, big thing here recently. If you have a longer club, you're going to generate more club head speed, but that doesn't always equate to more distance. We've got to be able to hit the ball on the sweet spot. What I'd recommend doing is trying out several different length drivers if you have that option at your local pro shop. Try out your standard length, then go a little bit longer and see if you're still hitting it straight. If you can hit the longer shaft just as straight as the shorter shaft, go ahead and use the longer one, that's fine. But a lot of times what I find is as the shaft gets longer, people get a little bit less consistent. They're not hitting the center of the sweet spot every time. And even though they're swinging 2 or 3 miles an hour faster, they're hitting it less solid and actually hitting it 20 or 30 yards shorter. So it all depends on the player for that, but that's some good, rule of thumb is longest shaft that you can consistently hit solid and nice and straight, that kind of thing. For the loft of the club head, really what we're looking for here is the highest loft with the lowest spin. So if we are a very fast swinger, if we're generating 120 miles an hour club head speed, we're going to get a lot of spin on the ball. And if you were to use a 10, 11, 12 degree lofted driver, the ball's just going to shoot up in the air and get too much backspin, and it's going to look like this and then come down versus penetrating through the air. So the faster you swing, in general, the lower the loft, just as a rule of thumb that you're going to need. But everybody should be looking for a good driver. When you get fit or you're hitting a driver, it's got that nice high launching trajectory and it bores through the wind. So it's kind of like an oval shape to your ball rather than doing this. If you're not generating enough backspin, then it's just going to kind of fall out of the sky. So use the highest lofted driver that still penetrates through the wind. That's what you're going to want to have as far as the loft on there. And then finally, let's talk about the club head itself. I get a lot of questions, should I be using a 460 club head? I still get some people asking that every once in a while. No doubt 460cc club head is going to be way more forgiving, more distance, more consistency, all that kind of stuff. It's almost crazy to use anything else unless you're just super, super elite golfer, and even then, I don't see any advantage with it. So go with a 460 head if you don't already have one. That's pretty much all they've made for the last 10 years pretty much. There are a few that are smaller heads out there. This will allow you to spread out the weight in the perimeter of the head. That way when you hit off the heel or the toe, there's more perimeter weighting in that bigger head, and that club is going to twist less. You're going to get less curvature on the ball and overall better flight because they can move the weight around in the head. And then the head itself, there aren't a lot of drivers that are longer than other drivers. Really all you're talking about is spin management. So when you hit the ball dead solid in the center with a robot, they all pretty much go the same. What we're looking for with your own individual swing, again, is to get that ball that launches high and penetrates through the wind, and we can only do that if we get the right head for you. So some driver heads, for example, are gonna, I use a driver that's 4 or 5 years old. I've had the Ping I-15 forever. Not a great driver for everybody, but it works good for my launch angle and my spin rates. Other players may need more spin and they wanna go with a different head than this. Every driver is a little bit different, going to get you more or less. So again, just try them out and see what works best for you. If you tend to get a little too much backspin on there, there are a few drivers out there that are pretty low spin. One of the ones that I know is pretty good for this. Older drivers, I-15 was really good for me. The slider driver that TaylorMade came out with is a good driver. For the mid launch player that gets, that doesn't need really, really low spin, I really like the Titleist drivers, the newer ones that are out. I think those get a good ball flight on there, and I like those a lot. They feel really nice, have a good sound to them. So you may want to try that out if that you kind of fall in that category. And then if you're very low spin, low swing speed player, you have a lot of drivers with more loft that are designed to get more backspin and more launch on there, more carry for you. So hope this helped to answer a couple questions and to pick out that right driver. Make sure you guys get fitted. You have to get fitted to know really what's going to work best for you. Try a lot of different clubs out. Try longer, shorter ones out. Try different shaft flex. Try different lofts. See which one really feels good to you, and you're going to have a lot more fun on the golf course. Good luck to you guys. Work hard. I'll see you soon. All right, guys, so I hope y'all really enjoyed this video. If you did, go ahead and click the like button now. That really helps us to grow the channel, to get more popular, and to be able to create some more content for you guys. Also, click the subscribe button. That way you'll be notified when we have our latest, greatest videos We're going to be focusing a lot on getting more distance in the future, so you don't want to miss out on those videos. As a bonus for you guys today, I'm going to go over the #1 lag mistake in a video that's coming up here in a second. I'm going to play a preview of that video. Go ahead and click the link that pops up in the screen or down below in the description. You'll be able to get instant access to that video so you can start picking up some more distance right now. Plus, you're going to get 5 bonus videos on top of that. So good luck to you guys. I'll see you all in the lag video. Hi guys, and welcome back. I'm Ballard, and in today's video we're going to talk about one of the absolute worst drills for creating lag. It's a very common drill that I see, and in this drill what we're going to do is we're going to set the wrist very early to create an angle of lag, and then we're going to try to hold this throughout the swing. It's one of the worst things that you can do to build lag. I'm going to talk about the science behind why this is the case, and I'm also going to give you a great drill to help you improve your lag, all in this video. Let's go ahead and get started. If I do it this way versus holding that position, exact same thing happens when we're building lag in the golf swing. So what we want to do is throughout the swing, I want to have a very low and wide takeaway. So I'm not going to set my wrist early at all. If you look at a lot of the top players, you look at Adam Scott, very wide takeaway, not very much wrist set at all. You look at Rory McIlroy, you look at Tiger Woods. All these players are using a wide takeaway and not getting very much wrist set, so that later in the swing, as we start down, we can increase this wrist set, and we're really only going to max out this angle of lag for a split second in the downswing. Okay, so a 3-step drill here. Now, as we get started with this, I want to remind you that the fulcrum in this golf club for getting a massive amount of lag is right at the end of the golf club. This is where I want my hinge point to be. I want to use the full length of this club to build lag and then release lag.